Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for another episode recap about today's Days of Our Lives, May 18th, 2026. So let's just start off with this whole unexpected moment with Kristen and Xander, because honestly, if you guys did tell me that they would be a love interest or they would bed together, then I would think you're just making up stories online, because like, how in the world they think that this was a great idea to put them together? I mean, I'm all for Kristen getting her groove back, but come on, Xander, just ew. Xander and Gwen was one thing, but Xander and Kristen? Now, I understand Kristen wanting to work with somebody to take on her brother, because obviously she can't do it herself. She always has to find somebody else to do her dirty work and then hides her hands when it all goes down. So anyway, she asks him because, again, she's making up the reasons why he should help her, which is, EJ is his rival. He still has his foot in the Mera Enterprises, and even if he's not in charge, he's still a part of it. So at some point, he's going to come after his loved ones or mess up his business. So she was listing all the reasons why he should help her and talk about how, it's time for EJ to be put down and, for him to not cause any more problems or messes to actually happen. Now, Xander said go to hell on that front. So, she was saying, you're making a big mistake, whatever. But at some point, he had a different proposition. His night was still young, his afternoon was still open, so he decided to just, take her to bed. And I'm like, Kristen, aren't you friends with Gwen? Like, isn't that breaking girl code, or don't you not care about loyalty? You talk about EJ not having loyalty, but what about you? You're the mirror to run through, and you're just as ruthless, if not just as ruthless as EJ. But this was just cringe. Honestly, it was a lot of BDSM and belt hitting and all of that. And, Xander was tied up at some point. They finished whatever that was, because that was no love making. And he tied up his hand was tied up by her, and then he was trying to wrestle his hands out, and he ends up spraining his elbow. So this is all funny when I explain it in the end with him going to the hospital and seeing Sarah. There was also when Kristen has a walk of shame and she ends up running into Leo, and Gwen and Leo could tell by her hair pulling up that she was up to something naughty and no business at all. So anyways, Gwen was all for it, and she's like, if anything I've learned from Xander, being with Xander, like, go for it, have the badge of honor. And I'm like, Gwen, if only you knew that Kristen was shocking up which your paramour. So Joy was in the park with her baby, and Lonnie came over. Lonnie recognized her from the soap opera, so she was like, whatever her character's name was, and Joy was like, well, kind of, I'm Joy Wesley. So she said, hi, I'm Lonnie Grant. So she said, oh, I recognize you from off of Abe's table on the picture frame, and you have twins, right? So she said, yeah, my twins are off playing again. I have a writ against Days, because like, why is it that we cannot see babies of color on the soap? Like, I'm not trying to make this political or race motivated, but still, why don't we see Lonnie and Eli's twins on here as much as we see Joy's baby? I get that they're for a storyline, a major storyline, but why we can't see, Lonnie and Eli's twins? Like, at least they are part of the storyline. They're coming back to Salem. Shouldn't they be seen as well? Like, we couldn't even see a glimpse of them. I have a problem with that. But anyways, I digress. Back to them. Joy is, catching her up, or really talking to her about what happened between her and Chanel and how it went south because of what she did with her husband. And, she already knew, Lonnie knew about that. But Lonnie, he was trying to be fair about it. And I said, really, Lonnie, if it was your husband, you would have felt the same way as Chanel. But in the same way, she said, look, Chanel has a lot going on, and it's really not entirely directed towards you, but just give her some space. And Joy agreed on that as well. She said, look, to be fair, you did not know that Johnny was her husband, and you didn't go all the way with him. But Joy feels bad because she treated Chanel like a friend, and Chanel treated her like a friend, and she just feels bad about the whole situation. But Lonnie tells her just give her some space. Now, Leo and Gwen, remember from last week that they went out to have a bite because they're both going through their respective heartbreaks. So Gwen is just an emotional mess, but I just don't understand why she even let herself come to this point, because Xander was honest with her from the beginning about what he wanted, who he was interested in, who he still has feelings for, and what it was supposed to be with Gwen. So I don't understand why Gwen should even take it to heart this way. If she knew that it was going to be messy like that and she still had feelings for Xander, she shouldn't have gotten to bed with him. Because when you get into bed with somebody that you have feelings for and everything, like it becomes a sort of attachment, and then you have the broken heart when the other person is not that interested in you and doesn't want anything further with you. Now, anyways, Leah can tell that she's hurting, and the soft part of him comes out. He still cares about her, and I know she still cares about him, and she opened up to him a little bit about what happened to her and Xander, and he's sorry to hear that. And she also talked about how EJ screwed her over, which she should have known. This is typical EJ, textbook EJ. And Leo got interested at that part about how EJ is involved, like what did he do. And Gwen can't get into detail about it because, again, she just feel like Leo is just trying to just really get dirt out of her for his newspaper. And he said that, yes, as much as I really want to know more to add to the article, like, it is the news of the century, but at the same time I do care about you and what you're going through, and just know that I'm here for you. So it was a great moment between them. I like seeing them together and sharing jokes and being there for each other like they used to. So Stephanie and Alex, right? So Stephanie comes home from she comes home from work, and then Alex is there. She was telling him about how it went until she saw this toy elephant, and then she was like, I'm assuming this is for Kelsey. So I said, yeah, I bought that for her. So she said, speaking of literal elephant, we need to talk about it, because we haven't really addressed anything, and we tiptoed around the subject, but I don't think I'm ready to be anybody's stepmother. So he's saying, like, what do you mean? I'm not understanding. Is it that you want me to choose between you and my daughter? So she said she would never, ask him to do that. However, she feel like she cannot trust him. And he's like, what you mean? So she said that she ran into Joy the other day, and Joy said, she's staying in town with the baby because of Alex. So she remembers talking to Alex, and Alex told her that it was Joy's idea. So now she doesn't know if she can trust him, but he said he didn't want her to be uncomfortable further, and it's already overwhelming. It's complicated for him. So she's like, it's complicated for me too. You don't think I'm going through it as well? I went through this ordeal, and now I have to deal with this on top of it. Like, I don't know if I can manage this. I don't think I'm ready for all of that. I didn't sign up. She gets a text message from Brady about going to the gun range. So that conversation ended prematurely, and she went about her business. Alex also got a text from Joy. So Lonnie came over to see Chanel and her mom, who were already having a conversation about the whole Lexi thing and how that's gonna take place when she gets discharged. How is that gonna work? Has her and Abe conversed about it, and Pauline is saying that they haven't talked really about anything. So she at this point think her marriage is all dead and gone, because Lexi is back. That's his true love of his life. She's in denial about it working out, but Chanel reminds her that she is Abe's love of his life. And as I was saying, like, Lexi's been gone for over 15 years. Like, technically that would be null and void with this whole marriage, and their union is probably legal. So I don't understand what Paulina's trying to say, and she is the mayor. She shouldn't have an awareness about this, or maybe I'm wrong, but yeah. Anyways, she's done dumps about that. She's happy that Chanel and Lonnie and their kids are there to keep her company. She doesn't want them to move out just yet. So, they were worried about being a burden, but hey, she's happy to have them over. Now Lonnie comes over, and Chanel is talking to her as Paulina goes in the kitchen and talks about how Paulina is just trying to maintain a strong front. She doesn't want to really open up about what's going on with her. And Lonnie said, it reminds me of you. You are just having everything on your plate between Johnny and the babies and your baker and everything else. And it's okay to just release and just let go and just not be so strong all the time. So Xander is at the hospital, and this is why he was in the sling when he was going back to Kristen's place. Kristen put him in that position, but again, it's so awkward because Sarah comes in and she thinking it's a different patient, and turns out it's her ex-husband, so it's all awkward. She was like, I can arrange for another doctor if you want to see another doctor. So he's like, it's okay, you'll do fine. And she's like, oh really now? So he's like, it's okay, I didn't mean no harm. So anyways, he does explain the situation that he was in some kind of quote-unquote accident. He doesn't go into full details, but Sarah doesn't really want to hear the gory details of that, I'm sure. Now anyways, she gets some tests done, and his hand will be able to function after a week, but he has to have his hand in a sling. Now she has to put it back into position, and of course that's painful, but she enjoyed every minute of it. And I was just laughing like, Sarah, you wanted to really hurt this man, just give him a little payback. Even though you're a doctor, you want to give him a little payback. You know what you were doing, finding too much pleasure in him in pain. So Stephanie goes to the gun range to vent to Brady about what happened with Alex, and that it's hard for her to accept that he has a daughter. And she's telling him how she is reacting to it all and feeling like she's cruel about how she sounded, not wanting to know this little girl. And Brady reminds her that her feelings are valid, and it's a lot going on. She just went through something horrific, and it's a lot to take in, but a child will bring people together. And it might surprise her how close she will be to this baby. Now Stephanie's saying that maybe with time she will get closer to Kelsey, but right now it's just a lot. And I'm just saying, like, she just made it all about herself. She doesn't think about how everything is affecting Alex. Like, Alex has been there for her when she was kidnapped, when everything else was going on, when she was, behaving erratically towards him. And you're telling me as his wife, you can't just be there and support him. You can't just understand that it's a lot for him. Like, of course, I get it's a lot to just really, accept another woman's child into the household. Take a note from your mom. How did she navigate the whole thing with Steve and Tripp? Like, I'm sure it was hard for her, but she, stood by him. She didn't leave. She didn't end up leaving for long either, if that even happened. She stood by him, and they're still married today. Maybe you need to take notes from them to navigate the situation. But the thing is, you can't just, chastise Alex. Alex did not call for this. Like, this was before you guys got married and got serious again. Things happen. What are you going to do? Walk away like you love him, but ride by him. Anyways, Brady was trying to give her advice. Also, him and Sarah, they had their boring session earlier, talking about how they want to meet up. But Sarah had double shift, so it didn't happen. And she was longing for her daughter. And Brady was able to pull some strings and let her come at the hospital to meet her. She felt guilty because Brady was away from his daughter. But he said, look, vent to me about any and everything. I'm here to hear it all. And they kissed in public. Look at them really do this PDA in the middle of the hospital. But anyways, yeah, that was it between them. Now, Alex meets up with Joy and their baby, and he talks about how Stephanie's feeling. And Joy recalls how she, met Kelsey at the pub, and it was awkward, but he understands what she's going through. So they are talking about arranging a date for Stephanie to really officially meet baby Kelsey. But I'm just saying, Alex, maybe you need to give Stephanie space on this, because the way how she's reacting and how she's behaving now, maybe that's not going to happen. I don't know. But anyway, they talk about the name for Kelsey and it being officially changed to Kelsey Kirakis, but now they need a middle name, and Joe was suggesting Adrian. And I thought that was a great way to pay homage to his late stepmother. Beautiful name. So anyways, they bond over that, but hey, it looks like they are getting closer. And I wouldn't mind, because the way Stephanie's acting, she's going to push Alex right into Joy's arm, and they might become a family. But anyways, guys, this is it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like or subscribe to my channel. I will see you guys tomorrow.